My video for September the 9th, 2018, which is video number 2841, is entitled Dealing with Deadly Delusions. There are, of course, many who adopt the belief that what we experience as humans is just an illusion. Their premise seems to be that because it's just an illusion, anything goes. There is no right and wrong. As I see it, this is an intellectual rationalization for those who abuse others for their own reasons, but it is a deadly delusion. Unfortunately, it does not seem deadly for the abusers, only for the abused. Yes, I have dealt with this in other videos as I try hard to make sense of human life, which I can only do from my own experience and observation. I have had many friends tell me that I'm too negative. I should focus on the positive, they say. While I can always find others that are in a worse situation than me, that does not end my own anguish. When, for example, I think about how the Khazarian Jews treat Palestinians and justify it, I am incensed. Of course, many throughout human history have been grossly abused, whether for race, religion, or whatever. Few seem willing or able to rise above the deceptions that make human life so insane. More than anything, I'd like to experience fulfillment of my lifelong dreams and visions of heaven on earth. I'm actually recording this video much later than I usually do. It's in the evening, actually, that I'm recording for the next day's video. I usually record early in the morning, most of the time. In any case, I have had many ideas go through my mind today, and I actually wrote down a couple of other titles before I am doing this video that I thought, well, that would be a good topic, and I may make some of those videos in the future, but for right now, I want to focus on the idea that what we experience as humans is just an illusion, and the result of that thought is, well, it really doesn't make any difference because we're all going to end up in the same place anyway, and it really doesn't matter what we do or don't do. That's all irrelevant because it's just an illusion. To me, that is the greatest delusion that we could ever come up with. And it's part of the new thought, new age religion that I was actually part of. I mean, I'm not attacking something that I haven't been involved with on a first-hand basis. And I now wrestle, since the theft of my home, I now wrestle with things that I so willingly apparently overlooked much of my life, including the ideas presented in the Bible that the Old Testament God is a loving God, when it plainly states that that God is a jealous God, which means an insecure God, which means not God at all, not having any of the qualities that would define divinity to me, the omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence, etc., and certainly not loving, commanding the execution of those that were of different groups. That's something that has been going on in human history as far back as we care to dig into the past. And evidence of atrocities abound even in some of the geological records that have been uncovered. So we live on a planet that has been, from my perspective, cursed. That's a negative thing, folks. It's not a positive thing. We have been cursed with our inability to see beyond our own individual situation, which is why I particularly cited the fact that I have had many challenges in my own life, but that I'm also able to look at the Palestinians and the Africans and Native Americans when the Europeans came and settled in America and considered Native Americans to be less than human. I mean, this idea that there are groups that are not to be considered even relevant is an insanity to me. Where's the love? Where's the compassion? And where's the wisdom? It's not wisdom at all. It's foolishness, and even worse than foolishness, it's barbaric. I mean, why do we have to, in a supposedly age of enlightenment, have to still deal with the barbaric practices that we're dealing with still in the 21st century? Why? You might say, well, Ron, it's about the money game. And as I've said in so many other videos, money was the creation of the means to convince slaves that they were not enslaved by paying them. Oh, we're hiring you to do a job. And now you do it, you're getting paid, so you're not a slave. Slaves don't get paid, even though they might have room and board and a roof over their head in many instances in colonial United States. But in our modern 21st century time, there are still a lot of slaves around the world, and including children that are grossly abused by those that claim to be the elite establishment. I mean, the monarchies of Europe and probably other places around the world have long practiced pedophilia, and our religions have had clergymen, priests, and others that have practiced barbaric acts of cruelty against infants and children and teenagers and adults of other races and other religions and other nationalities and other things that have labels that divide us from one another. When are we going to tear down the walls and build the bridges that are necessary to create heaven on earth? And when is the loving creator, I'm assuming there is one, going to take responsibility for creation? I know I keep asking that question again and again and again, and I don't get answers from God. I just want you to know that. I mean, I have moments where I seem to be connecting a little bit, but not like I used to. I used to be able to connect much better than I am able to connect now. And people say, well, that's because you're too negative now. You've fallen into some kind of a negative trap. Well, no, I've now opened myself up enough to consider the possibility that some of the things that I believed most of my life simply are not true. And one of those, unfortunately, is the fact that God is love, when the God of this world, who is obviously a very negative being, and the true God, if there is a true God, doesn't seem to take any action of a corrective nature to bring justice to humanity and to bring peace and love to planet Earth. That's what I look for. And it's a delusion to think that we're not supposed to learn something from the experience that we're all having as a collective humanity, and only pay attention to the good things, because if you pay attention to the negative things, they're going to grow. And so you've got to only pay attention to the positive elements. Well, that's a nice thought, and I probably taught it myself. I no doubt I've taught it myself, but it's wrong. It's simply wrong. I was wrong, and those that teach it are wrong. We have to first fix what's broken before we can live on a planet that is truly at peace, that is truly a planet that takes down the barriers that separate us and helps bring us together into a human family that learns cooperation and learns to listen to each other and learns what love actually means. I want to be a lover of humanity, and I choose to reach out as best I can for those that are willing to listen, so that we can make a positive difference on the planet in which we live. Thank you for listening, and as always, namaste.